Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I just like to post pictures of my drawings. Once in a while, you'll see a vacation picture of me and my family here and there. But also, I've posted links to the Marvel data page, fan site, where you can look at plot synopsis uh, and character synopsis. So we're going to be looking at two issues here. We're going to be looking at Punisher War Journal 6 and 7. Now, Jim Lee does 90% of the art. Carl Potts is still doing layouts for him. This is from 1989. I have covered 1 through 5, but I didn't cover it too in details. So feel free to check those out here. I just think that it is um, important to see how certain artists like Jim Lee have developed over time. And this is before he took over X-Men and became a huge superstar. So he did Alpha Flight, which was more of his, hey, I'm here. Then Punisher, which wasn't quite, you know, put him out, but it started that road of putting him on the map. And then, of course, he goes into X-Men and becomes a huge superstar. So the cool thing about this two issues is Wolverine stars. So I decided, hey, let me just cover these two issues, and we'll be covering his entire uh Jim Lee's entire run on Punisher War Journal. Like I said, 1 through 5 are in one video, and now we're gonna get 6 and 7 here. So Jim Lee draws this cover. Scott Williams is not Jim Lee's inker during this time. So Carl Potts does the writing and the layouts, and Jim Lee does the layouts and finish art. That means he is pretty much inking everything you see here and doing most of the pencils. But Carl Potts is still doing a couple layouts here. So, all right, here we go. So we start out with Microchip uh, waiting on the Punisher. He had a job that Punisher had a job he wanted Microchip to do, but he couldn't do it alone, and he was supposed to be here hours ago. And of course, he shows up here, very tired, very beaten up. Says, "I need your help." So, one of the cool things here is this Jim Lee used some kind of um, screen tone here to get this nice um, straight lines here. The thing about screen tones back then is you had to put these in manually. It's not like now where you can just get a computer to do it for you. But kudos to him in the beginning, when he was inking his own work, trying to use traditional stuff. It is 1989, so I mean, it traditional is still the expected, but he could have easily just drawn the lines. So Microsoft says, "Don't tell me you saw a crack den that he passed on the way over." And Punisher corrects him and says, "No, it was a street gang breaking into a warehouse." Um, he asks Punisher if he ever thought about calling the cops, and tells him that his arm has been torn pretty up bad. He tells him he's got to relax and take a break because he's going to get killed, and his obsession's getting out of hand. He says that soon he won't be able to even, he'll see someone do something like throw garbage. That's what a litter bug is. And he'll pump him with 9mm rounds in his direction. Microchip basically tells him that he's been trying to get him to relax for months, and he thinks he has come up with a solution. In the meantime, we look at this billionaire who has had other people hunt these animals for him, and he's admiring the trophy room with pride. And he has one left, this Mokil Mbembe, I believe. So it's the one animal that has apparently eluded him. And so now we are in the Congo, and these fearless pygmy hunters are fleeing in terror. And here we can see some dinosaur type creature. Um, Always love the use of blacks. It's They're so much easier to draw. So Frank Miller really upped the use of blacks. So now we're in Madripoor, which was the home base of Wolverines during the late 80s, early 90s for his solo series. So Madripoor is a fake city in Indonesia. It's basically supposed to be a stand-in for Jakarta, the capital of Indonesia. So that's what Madripoor is. So it's a fake Marvel city. So we have Wolverine here coming in. You can see him here in shadow, saying things are quiet tonight, and it's it's almost a pleasure to be bored. And so he sees this guy here, and he's wearing a cheetah coat. So he knows that it's a very rare of the big cats, and says there's no way that he came to this legally, because cheetahs are protected. So Wolverine says, as he's walking out, or he's thinking, these are thought balloons, that the truck smells of dead animals, probably skins, and he heard of a international poachers that is specializing in endangered species, killing the last of living treasures for big dollars. So, and so he Wolverine says this guy's gonna have to make a career change, and he stops him again. Some more screen tones here. He basically says, "Nice jacket. Where'd you pick it up?" And the guy curses at him. That's what this is supposed to be. He tells him to screw off. He doesn't deal with runt Neanderthals. And of course, Wolverine's not too happy with that. Grabs him and says, "All right, have it your way." So the inking is very Klaus Janson like. Early Jim Lee was definitely much more different than the current Jim Lee that you see here, but you can definitely start to see that detail to making these panels really, really cool. So the guy pulls off a knife as Wolverine is asking him some questions to tell him who killed these animals, why they're in Madripoor, and where they're going. You can see the guy stabs Wolverine here, and Wolverine says, "Nice blade," and he takes out his claws and says he brought his own. Again, good. Little bit of a messy Jim Lee compared to today, how he draws. Really enjoy this. Seeing him kind of ink himself is pretty cool. So Wolverine basically says, "Easy or hard?" The guy's like, "Easy," and he just says he's just a transporter. He picked up a load from an airplane that came from the Congo, and that a military person named Major Kinimi hired him. That's awesome. So the guy says that he's to wait at the bar between 8 and 10 each night, and someone will recognize him based on what he's wearing. And the coat was a down payment. So basically someone's going to come and grab all the endangered coats and distribute them throughout Asia. So Wolverine tells him to strip it and get going. So he tells them that it's not the great part of town, but so Wolverine's basically going to do some investigating. So Wolverine basically sees all these dead animals just taken for their coats, and he's just overwhelmed. He says he's going to give the coat to one of his friends and they'll nail the distributor, and he's going to go to Africa to pay a visit to this major Konami. So Microchip says that he needs going back to telling Punisher he needs to take a break. He proposes a vacation where he can satisfy his need for action and use his skill without getting anyone killed or himself getting killed. And an old associate of his, a Professor Wyneth, is heading up an African expedition in search of a sauropod dinosaur. So you can see Frank looks at him, sort of like, you're nuts. Microchip tells him not to look at him like that. Again, look at Jim Lee's inking himself. Part of what makes Jim Lee better now, even though I do like how he inks, is the fact that he can devote himself completely to the pencils. He probably had to rush on the pencils, and so that he had time to do both the pencils and the inks. He definitely becomes a better artist here. So Microchip basically tells him all about the stuff and this dinosaur here, as he tries to get him together. So Punisher will agree to do that just to kind of humor him, but Microchip is happy he's taking the job, and he's gonna get him. He's gonna forge some papers and passports to get him in to Africa. So again, this is part of an ongoing story. We're not gonna cover this, but this is part of a limited series that came through, and this runs for a while. So we're just gonna kind of just show you the art, but we're not really gonna deal with that part. So Frank is arriving. Says that there's gonna be a professor. That's gonna be him, the Professor Wynex, and the expedition includes his wife of 6 months, which Microsoft has never met, and the country is a French colony. And recently Russians have had a heavy hand in the area, and a lot of the Congolese go to Cuba for higher education here. So it looks like this is Professor Wynex's crew here. And I think this is the Punisher, although I'm not quite sure yet. I haven't read this in a while, so I'm kind of looking at it as I go along with you. So this is kind of the security, and again, his wife here. So I do believe this is the Punisher here. And so this guy's admiring the gun here. So this is just kind of filled up to just kind of tell us a little bit more about the humanitarian mission that the guy's in and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of showing a little humanity from the Punisher. So he's gonna sleep in this hammock. So the next day, he awakens and they're gonna go off to their expedition. So they're using so they're gonna bring some deer for the pygmies, and so as a kind of a token of good um, measures. And Punisher shoots a black mamba that was about to bite this kid. So, and he's still alive. You can see here, or there was a second one, sorry. And the guy uses his little bow to get him. So, all right. So they're kind of telling them about this dinosaur that they have been seeing here. And so we're just kind of moving along here. We want to see Punisher and Wolverine. Again, this is part of an ongoing story that doesn't really get resolved in the Punisher. And so they're doing some searching for this creature. So here we kind of get our first reveal that something's not up. This is the wife of the professor. Now, it had been mentioned she'd only been married to him for 6 months. So she asked this guy, this kid here, Jean, to go back to get some water for them. And the guy says, okay. And then she says, he's gone. We're about 10 yards from the river. And this guy says, perfect, with kind of an evil smile. So something's up. And then, of course, they're like, aren't they beautiful? And then it sees these gorillas here. And they're going to take off their guns. So something's definitely going on. So, and when he comes back, it looks like they're washing the blood. And so the kid brings them some of the water sticks. So he tells them that they saw no gorillas, but perhaps on the way back. And she says, "Oh, this kid's not buying it," and he's like, "I smelled the gorillas." So, something's up. So suddenly, somebody's yelling for help, and the two says that the group of gorillas startled and attacked and then grabbed the boy. And of course, we know that that's not true. Love the use of dual shade here. This is dual shade and dual tones, and causing the shadow of the branches here. So Jim Lee is definitely quite the artist here. So they're saying they'll go see what's up, and they find the kid that they were looking for, and they're saying his throat has been crushed, and he points, and then he dies. The father takes him home. So Frank Castle knows that this was most likely a person, not gorillas. So now we have Wolverine here arriving. So Wolverine is wearing the cheetah's skin as camouflage, and he's using it on purpose because he's after the poachers and nothing. He's saying that using the skin is for that purpose, for camouflage for them. And the major spilled the information on the poaching operation. So every few days, some planes fly by, and there's a a hall marked with the red flags on a treetop to let these planes know that they have their stuff. So, but he's going through. Meanwhile, the Punisher here is looking at all the uh, a buried mass of apes. Um, so he knows the kid was killed for knowing too much, and they see the dead gorillas, and suddenly, he sees the red uh, flag up here. In the meantime, um, Punisher's attacked by the gorilla here again using the duo shade right here. Very cool. And Frank's trying not to kill him. So, but he has no choice and stabs the poor creature. And he feels bad because the thing was the ape was avenging his families, and Wolverine doesn't know that this is the Punisher. He just thinks he's one of the people and says, "You'll pay for this," and goes and attacks him. And the two of them kind of get into a fight. So when he hits him, of course, Wolverine's made of adamantium and hurts his hand. And Wolverine says, "Where are your buddies?" And he says, "You're not getting them." So each one thinks, that they're poaching. Uh, Punisher thinks that Wolverine's a poacher because of what he's wearing, and Wolverine thinks Punisher's the poacher um, for what he did to the gorilla. So he's like, "I'm gonna get all of you," and Punisher's like, "You're not gonna get nothing." So off they go. Great shot here. And so he knocks him down. Um, so he's gonna go deal with the others, and as Punisher goes down, here comes a crocodile. So we're gonna go off to our next issue here. So we're gonna go through Punisher War Journal now number 7, also from 1989. Great cover here. Again, just Jim Lee, no Scott Williams at this time, and you can see some very Klaus Janson in style, I should say. You can see the thick brush that Jim Lee is using. So, um, I just it's awesome to see Jim Lee's kind of style, how it was early and versus how it's evolved now. So here comes, it kind of picks up kind of how the last issue ended with Frank Castle in that river, and there's a crocodile here that's about to eat him, and so we have again our credits. So same as before, and he comes out fighting the crocodile, and so he grabs a little branch from that tree and unfortunately has to kill the crocodile. So Punisher thinks Wolverine's the one who killed Gene, the little boy. So a very an ode to Predator here, as he's gonna use some of the mud to kind of hide or use it as camouflage. So it's kind of funny that he uses that, but then when they draw him next, he doesn't use it. Uh, so he grabs his shirt and a gun where he had left it or stashed it, because you never know when you need a big, powerful rifle. So Wolverine is saying, he's lost the scent of the other people killing the animals, and he grabs this, but it turns out he went to the vine, but it was a snake that tried to bite him, and he just pushes it away. Says his feeling hack factor should counter the toxin before it gets to him, so he uses um, the his claws as machetes. He says it's time to eat, meaning he's about to hunt some deer. So he kills this deer and then sees the cheetah and decides to just leave it for the cheetah to eat. So we go back to this story, which really has nothing to do with what we're focusing on. So we're just gonna move on. So Punisher finds the deer that was left over, and he drinks water from the vines. And so we're now back to the nearby village. So the professor here, what's his name? Wyleth, wants this soldier here to see if he can talk with the pygmies. His wife says the chief pygmy, and it's kind of funny, says taking what's his name's body back to their village. And she knows, of course, his name was Gene, but he was unimportant, so to her. So he tells him, hey, his name was Gene. So they really want to find that dinosaur. He asks if he can find the Punisher, which he doesn't know it's the Punisher, but I'm just saying it. To let him know that they're going to be moving to the southernmost shore point because the Punisher was investigating the crime. So this guy here then says that he will find him. So the professor speaks French to them, telling them that they're sanctioned by the government to search out for this Mokil Emembi legends and mean them no harm. He says that they can't help, and he asks if they can recognize any of these animals from this book. And they say that they don't know what it is that he's speaking of. So the wife notices that this woman is looking at her bracelet. She thinks that she may be able to bribe her. So she tells her that she'll give her the bracelet if they can give her the information. The lady says the jewelry would make me the envy of every woman in the village, but she's not supposed to talk. And the wife says, don't worry, you won't get into trouble. She only wishes to tell her what she wishes to know, and the bracelet is hers. So she tells them that there's a few great beasts left, and they travel to the lake. They feed and drink and return to the jungle at night. So, and she points where they are, and they can catch them if they hurry. So the wife grabs the lady and says, you're going to be our guide, and tells the corporal that this is it, to get the supplies and be quick and silent, and they must reach the animals before the others. So a few kilometers away, Jack finds the Punisher, who goes by Mr. Fort, and they're going to begin their trek back to the lake. So they're about to leave, and the tracker tells Punisher that they need to go to the left to avoid being detected by the cat here. So now we're at this Lake Tele, and realizes that these creatures really are real and they exist and how rich they're going to be. So, and the wife says that she can't witness this. So she says thank you to return to the village and not tell the others and not tell the others of this, or she will take the gold back. So, unfortunately, um, this is really good at explaining how humans really are. I think a lot of people are good, but other people are just motivated by money, like these two. And at the same token, even though this lady here is quite nice, money made her do something that she normally wouldn't do. And I'm not very religious, but in biblical in the Bible there is a saying, the love of money. And that is true. People that love this worship of money, or that they're solely motivated by money, do bad things. And this is a perfect example of a good woman who unknowingly told the bad people what to do. They're only motivated by wealth, and they're willing to do anything, including killing endangered species for their own greed. So it's a good. I think it's a good story, per se, and it's done so many times by different things. But it's so true. When people are motivated solely by money, it's a bad recipe. So back at the village, and um, they're not getting anything from these from the pygmies. So so basically, the lieutenant tells him, if you don't cooperate, I will report their attitude to the government superiors, and the medical supplies could be cut off and their land confiscated. Of course, these guys just say stop. If you're saying our government desires to cooperate, they'll do so. For years, the Russian advisors our government used to send us warned us never to trust the Americans. So so here they tell them what to do, and then soon the woman comes, and he of course makes a point to saying he's wearing my wife's bracelet. Where's my wife? How do you? I get again, it's comic books. Shouldn't overthink it, but most people wouldn't notice a bracelet, at least not so far, not like that. Um, so he says, "Tell us how you came about the gold," and she says, "She told me not to say." Oh, that she won't say, huh? So she says, "Speak," and so we now move to the Punisher searching for Wolverine. Punisher does not know that these two are bad guys because he wasn't around. He just knows that they're members of his expedition party and sees Wolverine rushing to them. So it's really good how Carl Potts kind of set this up, that these two good guys are just completely unaware of each other, just due to the circumstances. It's not your typical superhero trope where they fight and they join forces. They legitimately don't know about each other. So you can see here Punisher's getting ready to shoot, and then hits him in the leg, and Wolverine makes a mention that the healing factor is kicking in, and he hears Punisher coming toward him. Again, very Klaus Janson type inks. You just don't see Jim Lee uh, doing this anymore. It's such a rarity. If you get these comic books aren't too expensive at this time, so if you are able to get the trade or get the issues, I'd strongly recommend them. There's just something about this messy Jim Lee that I just find awesome. I just think it's so awesome. So Here comes Wolverine with his claws, destroys the weapon. Very cool um, panel there. And he punches him and hits him. So a double page spread here as he shoots. It wasn't. It looks like they took this off the original issue. So, all right. So these two, of course, get it. Each one thinks that they're the poachers. So she says they're seeing too much and they're scaring the dinosaurs away as he's yelling. And she tells the corporal to shoot them both. And of course, he smells the gorilla corpses on them. And they come to the realization here as chumps. We're both chumps. So they see the dinosaurs turning away and they're like, no, they're turning back into the swamp. Kill these two and help me get them around into the mines. And of course, the husband shows up and says, Norma, what on earth are you? But he stops when he sees that the dinosaurs really do exist. And she's like, what are you doing, dear? And of course, Norma's like, we have no choice. We have to kill them all. And suddenly, bang! The lieutenant here shoots the corporal, telling him he's a disgrace to the country. Of course, she's like, no, I was going to be rich. And she says, I'll still be rich. And so the corporal's trying to get away. And they're like, let him go into the swamp. Even the pygmies will not enter. By gun or beast, he will be shot dead in short order. Of course, these two agree that their conflict is over. So she's shooting at, she's trying to shoot the dinosaur here. And so the Punisher's going to do something here. Grabs the gun and shoots at her and kills her. And then scares away the animals. And he's like, Mr. Fort, your enemy escapes, meaning Wolverine. And he says, hold it, Lieutenant. He was about to shoot Wolverine. And says he's not the enemy, let him go. And of course, the professor says, Norma, I don't understand. And she says, you were played for a fool. He was hired by a rich Texan trophy hunter, hired to get close to you when you first decided to mount this expeditions. And she says, $1 million ahead for the Mokil and Membi. I was rich. And then she, of course, dies. And the Punisher says he's going to have to pay this Texan a visit. So Wolverine puts the cheetah jacket here, and he's going to go in and says this is going to be no question about this guy's fate, as he's going to go toward him. And he's like, it hurts. So the guy's like, please help me. And Wolverine looks at the cheetah coat and says, I can hear and smell more than one kind of animal heading this way. And he decides to leave this guy to his fate. And the guy's like, please don't leave me alone. And then a few minutes later, Punisher shows up. I love the all black with just the skull showing through. I love it. And he sees the gorilla's head, and he remembers something that, and I didn't cover this part, I should have said the pygmies, that gorillas hunt the big cats in packs. So he decides to put the coat on him so he doesn't get away. So he bounds him and then leaves him to his fate. So it's been 10 days, and no one even took pictures of the animals, and they all decided to keep quiet. He makes mention here that he was trying to track Wolverine to get him to a doctor, but that he was good at covering his tracks. Of course, we know Wolverine and Punisher will meet again, so he decides that before searching for Wolverine, that he's gonna take care of that Texan first, and then sees that there's something waiting for him in his front door, and um, there's a letter there that says, "Hello, no need to travel to Texas. I brought the beer. Please read the circled article in the newspaper." And so it says here, Otis C. Robert, Texas oil tycoon, cattle rancher, and stock trader, made a series of disastrous market moves yesterday that effectively wiped out all of his investments by the end of the day. In one interesting move, Roberts donated more than $1 million to the World Wildlife Fund. So it looks like Wolverine went in there. And he's like, who did this? Who knows I'm here? Daredevil? No, he doesn't leave his New York turf. Microchip? Have to ask him. If it isn't, I've been compromised. Might have to move out. Punisher always, thinking of the mission here. So, we see that dead guy here. His bones get crushed by that dinosaur. And so, thus we end. So, hope you enjoyed it. Wolverine and the Punisher meet for the first time. So, all right. Like and subscribe. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.